Do not buy 12 Tribes on Earth hair growth oil and hair magic elixir unless you want super healthy, gorgeous hair that grows. They have a whole line of amazing hair growth products, including hair growth leave-in conditioner spray, hair growth shampoo, hair growth spray, and hair growth butter. I'm starting to sense a theme here. They include quality natural ingredients. They smell amazing, and you can see the results for yourself. So if you're looking for healthy hair growth for your natural or relaxed hair, try 12 Tribes on Earth today.
Shalom, family. Good to see you all here. Hope you're doing well. Listen, 17 states are reporting a power grid emergency. And I'm going to tell you what those states are. And ladies and gentlemen, this thing is deep. And let me tell you something. They're trying to avoid telling people that it's the data centers. They want everybody to believe it's from the heat wave. It's not, y'all. It's from these data centers. I mean, think about it. We've had heat waves probably since this country has been here, and we have never had major power grid failures across 17 states, or potentially that. And if you are in a place and you notice your power is flickering a lot more than often, that is a sign. Now, they won't tell you, but that is a sign of a complete power failure in your state. When it goes out, y'all, because of these data centers, it's going to take the whole state out. And let me tell you something. If 17 states go out and they can't get the grid back on, America is done. There is no more America. America will not be able to make it after losing 17 states. That is a fact. They will never be able to make the rest of the country functional without those 17 states. And many of the power grids are tied to each other. That's another thing. Somebody way in Chicago might be tied to a state in the South. These power grids are all connected to each other. So it's not like one will go down and it won't impact anything else. It will. It will impact other states. So, yeah, this is a very dangerous thing. And I think they're afraid to tell everybody that it's data centers because they fear the anger, and they don't want the reaction from the public because they know people are going to go off. So they are insisting that it's all of the AC usage because of the heat wave that's causing the potential failure. They are lying. They are lying. Year in and year out, we have these heat waves and people are using their ACs and we were always okay. But now that the data centers are cropping up, now all of a sudden it's an emergency. So let me just give you some insight before I show you the videos. Let me share my screen. Even if you can't really see it well, I'm going to share my screen anyway. Okay, so it says that this is 17 states. So where is this coming from? It's coming from the Department of Energy. And this emergency order came out on Sunday, July 26, directing the Southwest Power Pool, the grid operator serving a huge swath of central US. So this is the central US. So this means it's several states. That's why I'm telling you these power grids connect other states. It's not going to just be yours. So to dispatch a backup generation units to prevent blackouts as extreme heat pushes electricity demand to unusual highs. Yeah, it's unusually high because you got the data centers on top of the people using their ACs in places of business and at home. Okay? The order runs through August 3rd. So these states are under a power grid emergency until August 3rd. So here are the 17 states that are covered: Arizona, Arkansas, Colorado, Iowa, Kansas, Louisiana, Minnesota, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, New Mexico, North Dakota, Oklahoma, South Dakota, Texas, Utah, and Wyoming. Okay, so they said a region stretching from North Dakota to Louisiana, serving roughly 20 million people. So apparently these advisories have come out before because they see a problem with the power grid. So these advisories, they're saying, have been coming out since July 20th. You see how they don't even announce this on mainstream news? They don't even say nothing. Okay, so the advisory has been out there since July 20th, repeatedly extended due to forecast uncertainty, high demand, seasonal heat, and potential low wind and solar output. So the new order authorized backup generation as well as last resort to hand off a level 3 energy emergency alert. The highest tier, meaning rolling blackouts, are imminent or already occurring. Now, I did the live about a week ago on how in certain parts of the country, they are blacking out a lot more often. You know, I showed you that because that's really significant. And it's not going to just be in one part of the country. Eventually, it's going to be everywhere. All right. So the level 3 emergency alert, the highest tier, meaning rolling blackouts, are imminent or already occurring. So the Department of Energy estimates about 35 gigawatts of unused backup energy is available across the region. So, y'all, I have seen emergencies, but not like this. I have never seen a power grid emergency come out quite like this one. You know, it says a lot. Yeah, I'm sorry. I think it's the data centers too, but they don't want to admit that. So they're putting it on the weather, but nah. You know, we already know how the data centers are zapping up all the energy. So how could it not have a big impact on what's going on now? So y'all, let me see something here. Ellie Brow, thank you for the 30 joules. Flower, thank you. I deeply appreciate your support for my channel. Turn on the comments here. Okay. Thank you for the ones, y'all.
The cracks are starting to show in America's power infrastructure. In the past week, electricity flickered on and off for roughly 10 minutes across the eastern United States of America, from Chicago to Boston to Miami. Happened on July 22nd. We now know why. Data centers. Loudoun County data centers in Virginia are being linked to a potential crack in America's power grid. Now, 10 minutes isn't a long time. flickered on and off. But Data Center Alley, located in Ashburn, Virginia, is sucking up the energy in the United States of America. And experts now tell local NBC4 Washington that cracks are emerging in America's power grid. A crack became so visible that millions of homes and businesses experienced it. This is just the beginning of what folks expect could be a massive power surge and energy suck by more data centers being built. And wait till we have suborbital data centers floating around in space. Spread the word. Follow along for all the news you need to know about.
This is big breaking news. A grid blackout warning has been issued for 17 different states. We are being warned that their grid is being pushed to its maximum level, and the Department of Energy is now allowing these grid providers to take emergency measures. So let's get into all the details here. You guys can see it says Energy Secretary secures grid across 17 states amid period of hot weather. It says here Secretary Wright issued an emergency order to stabilize the grid to mitigate the risk of blackouts across during hot weather conditions. All right, so 17 states are being warned from this. And right now we are having these heat warnings being issued across the country as well. You guys can see here extreme heat warnings have been issued across the country. You can see the magenta areas are where the extreme heat alerts are being issued right now, and the orange area is where heat advisories are being issued. All right, so if you're in these magenta regions, you need to be prepared over the next few days. They're expecting some areas to have temperatures of 110 degrees. All right, you guys can see here extreme heat warning forecasts, and this is for parts of Montana. All right, they are under extreme heat warnings, temperatures up to 100 degrees. We also have extreme heat warnings being issued for Las Vegas and surrounding areas as well, and that means the grid is going to be pushed to its limit. We also have extreme heat warnings for Memphis. They're saying heat indexes of in excess of 105 degrees, and this is in effect through 8 p.m. Tuesday. So tomorrow is going to be the big day for a lot of places, and here are the 17 states that are being affected right now. All right, so they authorized this emergency order on Sunday, and this allows backup plants that are normally switched off to generate extra electricity if surging demands threatens to overwhelm the grid. And here are the 17 states that are being warned right now: Arizona, Arkansas, Colorado, Iowa, Kansas, Louisiana, Minnesota, Missouri, and Montana. This also includes Nebraska, New Mexico, North Dakota, Oklahoma, South Dakota, Texas, Utah, and Wyoming. So these 17 states are under the Southwest Power Pool grid operator. All right, they operate in these 17 states. They don't provide all the energy for these states, but they provide a significant amount for these 17 states, and they could have blackouts potentially if resources are stretched too thin. All right, so that's why they're activating these emergency plans. This is
According to the U.S. Department of Energy, now 17 million Americans are under risk of electricity blackouts over the coming days. This is mainly because of the extreme heat that North America, United States, is experiencing. And it would appear that because of global warming, heat waves are lasting a lot longer. Up to about 40 million Americans right now are underneath what has been called a heat dome, where temperatures have exceeded 99 degrees Fahrenheit for literally weeks at a time. This comes at exactly the same time as Donald Trump is reinvesting in fossil fuels and throwing away renewable sources of energy. So for America, it's only going to get worse. Folks, let me know what you think about this in the comments. The source for this is the Daily Mail.
A federal emergency power order is now in effect across parts of 17 states as extreme heat pushes electricity demands to dangerous levels. The Department of Energy has authorized the Southwest Power Pool to use backup generators and keep designated power plants operating if the grid comes under serious strain. But this does not mean rolling blackouts have already started. The order is a preventative measure designed to stabilize the system before conditions reach the highest emergency level, when controlled outages may be needed to prevent a much larger grid failure. Residents are being urged to conserve electricity during peak hours, keep devices charged, and monitor local utility alerts. But extreme heat may not be the only factor. Data centers are expanding rapidly and consuming enormous amounts of electricity around the clock. So here's the real question. Should technology companies be required to build or fund their own power infrastructure instead of placing more pressure on the public grid? Tell me what you think in your comments. In addition, we'll continue to follow this story, provide you the latest. This is the Intel Desk. Stay locked in.
Another heat wave is pushing power grids to the limit. As millions blast their air conditioners, the Energy Department has issued an emergency order to help prevent blackouts in 17 states, including Louisiana, Arkansas, and Texas. The order directs the Southwest Power Pool to take steps to keep electricity flowing through August 3rd.
Fears of a blackout here in the United States as 17 states are put under a power emergency. Now, 17 states have been put under a power emergency for what they say is excessive heat causing extreme power usage. But I also can't help to think that data centers are having some type of issue with this, adding to the problem. So far, the states in a power emergency are Arizona, Arkansas, Colorado, Iowa, Kansas, Louisiana, Minnesota, Missouri, and Montana. But it also includes Nebraska, New Mexico, North Dakota, Oklahoma, South Dakota, Texas, Utah, and Wyoming. Several of those states with enormous data center complexes.
Well, see, here's my issue. If you see this is a major problem in 17 states, why can't the power company just cut off the data centers? I mean, we know where most of the power is going. Most of the power is going to the data centers. Why can't, when it's an emergency and you see the whole state could literally collapse, why not cut off the data centers? That's all I'm asking. It seems to me it's stupid to let the entire state fall over data centers. Cut them off. Cut them off. If that's going to be what it takes to reserve the power grid and to reserve energy, cut their asses off. That's all I'm saying.
Complexes coming in or that have already been built, coupled with extreme heat and excess power usage from the general population, I believe it might be a bridge too far when it comes to data centers. Now, I've noticed every single year, year over year, it's getting worse with more blackout potentials, brownouts, or just a lack of power in general.
The U.S. Department of Energy has issued an emergency order that is to ease the strain on the power grid. That covers 17 states, including Louisiana.
Yeah, Paul Murphy reports state regulators are keeping a very close eye on energy use out there to make sure that there's enough power when demand peaks.
Temperatures in the mid to upper 90s, so if you are going to be outside, take frequent breaks, try and avoid the peak heat hours of the afternoon, and stay hydrated.
You step outside and the heat smacks you in the face. It's not just uncomfortable, it's putting pressure on the power grid. Louisiana Public Service Commissioner Devontae Lewis says as the temperature rises, so does demand for electricity.
What we are seeing is people are utilizing a lot more electricity, putting more strains on the grid.
The Department of Energy is stepping in to help prevent widespread power outages. It issued an emergency order allowing the Southwest Power Pool, the regional transmission organization for states in the central U.S., to direct backup generation resources to reduce strain on the grid. The territory is home to 20 million people, stretching from North Dakota to Louisiana.
If we end up in a capacity constraint, you often see either a blackout or brownout, or in other instances, we can blow the grid.
While the majority of Louisiana's electric grid is part of a different regional transmission organization, the Mid-Continent Independent System Operator, known as MISO, Lewis says the risk of rolling outages still exists.
We are still at risk because we live in what we call a load pocket. there is not significant generation and transmission in Southeast Louisiana. And so that's always a fear of mine. It is always something at the front of the conversation.
High temperatures are expected to remain throughout the week. Paul Murphy, WWL, Louisiana.
So here are 3 things that you can do to help ease the strain on the grid and possibly lower your electric bill in the process. Raise the thermostat, turn your AC up by 2 or 3 degrees during those peak afternoon hours. Shift your chores until late in the evening or early in the morning to run your dishwashers, washing machines, or dryers. And unplug devices. Turn off any non-essential lights and electronics that you're not actively using.
So y'all, I hope you're not in any of these states, but always have a backup plan for if there's a complete blackout, or you notice that you're noticing a lot more flickers, because I have to tell you, I'm noticing it. I'm in New Jersey, and for the last several weeks, I have noticed the power flickering a lot more often than ever before. I'm seeing it. So, and there are hundreds of data centers here in New Jersey. So, they're telling you there's a lot of indicators. Even if you don't live near one, you may see a lot more hazy days than you saw before, or more cloudy days. A lot of that stuff is being emitted into the atmosphere from the data centers. There's a lot of things they're not telling us. And I told you last week, North Carolina, they're getting all kinds of power outages, a lot more than they said they have ever had. And that's happening in North Carolina. That's why I'm like, pay attention, because it ain't going to just happen there. It's going to be happening all throughout the country. And you got to be ready, because even in North Carolina right now, sometimes it'll go out and it'll be gone for several days before it pops back on. So yeah, the data centers are overloading the power grid. And that's what it is. It's not all these other things that they're trying to make us believe. Okay. Makiba Anderson, thank you so much for the 10 joules gold coin. Thank you so much for your support for my channel. Yes, and have non-perishables. One thing about a power outage, if you have a gas stove, you'll at least still be able to cook. People that got electric, well, not so lucky. But, we're still in the time of the year where you can still fire up your grill, if you have that to cook and feed your family. But yeah, this thing with the data centers, man, this place is going downhill real fast. It's just a matter of time before this stuff start going down and they won't be able to get it back up. It's definitely coming. So y'all, I'm going to go ahead and conclude. Let's see, somebody else. Hello, love. Thank you for the 10 joules, floating heart. Thank you for your support for my channel. Thank you. Oh yeah, it's definitely judgment. Definitely. We are in those times. So y'all have a wonderful afternoon. I will be coming back to do more lives. It's just I'm dealing with all the orders that I have to get out. So that's why sometimes I'll break for a few hours before I come back to do my next live. But I will be back. So y'all have a wonderful afternoon and shalom.